Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Jai Om Vishnupad Purnamam Sutripad Jakacharya Ashtotar Satashi Srimad AC Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Sadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gopinath Sham Mukund Radha Kunigiri Govardhan Ki Jai, Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai, Navadip Dham Ki Jai, Jagannath Puri Ki Jai, Gangamai Ki Jai, Ramanamai Ki Jai, Tulsi Devi Ki Jai, Bhakti Devi Ki Jai, Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Gaur Premanande. Welcome to all. Namam Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Shamaniti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashtute Shatadane Vanchakolpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindho Pyevacha Patita Nam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Shadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Again, welcome. And what topics would you like to talk about this evening? I wonder.
Well,
yes.
Maharaj, just in the interests of getting things going immediately, I had a topic left over from last week that I didn't get a chance to ask because you were fielding other questions. But I was thinking, sort of in the mood of Narada Muni's discussion with Vyasadeva in the 5th chapter of the 1st canto. We've sometimes, some of us have heard a little bit about your own history and initially coming to 26 Second Avenue in 1968. And those who have read your book have even more of a picture of that. But I was wondering, one thing that I would love to hear about.
You don't want to hear about my past life, do you?
No, I would love to hear about the story, the history behind your accepting sannyas. I've never heard anything about that. And I'd be very interested to hear how that took place and what led up to it and what was going on.
Well, I thought about it in retrospect, and I can tell you, at the time that I took sannyas, I was probably the longest standing brahmachari in ISKCON. Everyone else had either taken sannyas or left. And many God brothers had suggested, why don't you take sannyas? Why don't you take sannyas? But I was happy as a brahmachari, actually. The brahmachari life was nice. Then Prabhupada left in 1977. And when I thought in retrospect about why I took sannyas, it's pretty simple. I wasn't willing to work under Rameshwar Prabhu. It was that simple. He was now he was the authority, and he was very expert and very good. But I knew that I wasn't going to, it wasn't going to be a good fit for me to be his subordinate. And so the way out was to take sannyas. And that was the noble reason behind my adopting the 4th order of life.
Some of us don't know so much the history of Rameshwar Prabhu. And
Rameshwar Prabhu is a glorious devotee. He's Prabhupada entrusted him with great responsibilities. He made him a GBC member, made him a BBT trustee. And well, first he was assistant to BBT trustee, then he became the BBT trustee. He was super enthusiastic about book distribution and really helped stoke it up, as we might say, all over North America, and even inspired other parts of the world, competing with other BBT leaders and so on. So he's very enthusiastic personally as a book distributor, and enthusiastic as a force for book distribution. He was also very enthusiastic about producing books, um, coming out with new titles, printing more and more, and also thinking about ways to promote the books, to use the books. Very intelligent. Prabhupada said to the GBC men at one point, among all of you, Rameshwar is a little intelligent, which was a great compliment from Srila Prabhupada. He's a person of great intensity and determination, still is. Those who know him will almost inevitably remark upon his intensities. Akeha Guru Mat Guru Nandana, he can be quite single-minded and focused. So he's accomplished so much for Srila Prabhupada. And he was the organizer, he and Radha Ballava, for the 17-book marathon by which we completed Chaitanya Charitamrita and a couple of other books on the side. So he's really an extraordinary devotee, really extraordinary. So he also, these days, he's working on concepts for the TOVP, the museum side, and involved with many other such endeavors. He was also involved in the endeavor to prevent the sale of the Brooklyn ISKCON temple. He'd just been in Mayapur for some work and come back to New York for his own work. And then because there'd been some misunderstanding about when this topic would come up, he flew back to Mayapur a few days later to speak in favor of keeping the temple and preventing its sale. So he really worked hard on that. And he was also instrumental in there was a time when I was wondering, am I mad? Is it that everybody else has got it right and I've got it wrong? And we were driving together on the way to New Vrindavan for a festival. I guess we were both picked up at the airport. That's what it was. And he was just so clear and just so clear about the topic that it erased any doubts that I might have had. So he was very, very fine that way. So, and many more things can be said about the glories of Rameshwar Prabhu. Certainly one of our great figures for spreading Krishna consciousness during Srila Prabhupada's presence and afterwards.
Yeah. But at that time in history, you could see that there was a difference in style that you.
No, it's not a question of difference of style. It's just difference. Yes, difference in style between him and me. There were people that I'd be willing to work under and people that I wouldn't be willing to work under. And if you were willing to be, if you wanted to work with Rameshwar Prabhu at that time, you pretty much had to share in his approach to things and vision of things, which wasn't necessarily bad, but it wasn't what I was going to sign on for. So again, with that noble thought in mind, I took sannyas.
And you took sannyas from Satsrup Maharaj.
In Satsrup Maharaj in Mayapur. And Giriraj Maharaj took sannyas at the same time. A couple others.
Thank you for telling us a little bit about that. Actually,
I wish I could have said it was my just intense feelings of compassion for fallen souls or something like that, but sorry.
Well, it worked out great for us.
I don't know. Anyway, kept me off the streets.
Prabeen has shared with us in the chat box. Prabin
Oh,
has
I
shared
haven't
with
looked at the
me,
chat box. Let's open up the chat box.
he has a transcript of a conversation that you mentioned Prabhupada having.
Oh, Braj Bihar was initiated by Rameshwar Prabhu. Prabhupada said, replied, everywhere. Then he added, among yourselves, there is no strong man. That is the difficulty. That is a fact, admitted Tamal Krishna. All my child, said Prabhupada, a statement of love, but not of relief. And it requires a very strong man. That is lacking. In every minor detail, I have to open my mouth. Anyway, whatever you have got, sit down and select trustees, and that format is there. Make it a trust. Among you, Rameshwar is a little intelligent. So that's, from Prabhupada, that's high praise in this context, a little intelligent. And he is, Rameshwar is exceedingly intelligent, very sharp. Really can see his way through issues and then act with determination. One thing to be a philosopher or to be have to be able to see things, but then to be able to see things and act decisively and then follow through. That Los Angeles Rath Yatra, first one, was also organized by Rameshwar Prabhu. Of course, Jayananda Prabhu was really the inspiration and also the practical guide for that festival. But Rameshwar mobilized the devotee, got behind him and really organized things well. I remember it was his conception that every booth should have a book associated with it. So they go to this booth, there's this book. They go to this booth, there's that book. So in that way, we would distribute so many books. But he didn't just, throw together a lot of exhibits and flowers and stuff. There was a lot of intelligence that went into organizing that festival and so many other programs that he was behind. Sankarshan says, didn't Prabhupada say that Sridhananda Maharaj has a transcendental brain? I don't recall, but certainly he does. So Prabhupada very well might have said it. Sridhananda Maharaj also arranged so much preaching during Prabhupada's time and afterwards. All of Latin America really is connected with Sridhananda Maharaj, or started and inspired by Sridhananda Maharaj in his preaching. Something else? Maybe I should ask how some of you are going to take sannyas. It's not just for the brahmacharis, but for the grihastas, the next thing is vanaprastha life, then sannyas also, because there aren't enough people to spread the Krishna consciousness movement single-mindedly, single-mindedly. So it needs sannyasis. And it needs it so much that Prabhupada created, 22-year-old sannyasis, 25-year-old sannyasis, made young men, gave young men sannyas at considerable risk. But now we have so many older devotees. They've been in household life for 20 years, 30 years, 40 years. And before the twilight sets in and the sun goes down on their life, they can do so much work for spreading Krishna consciousness. So that's to be taken seriously. Not just that we sort of live out our days and chant Hare Krishna, course, that also is glorious. If we live out our days and chant Hare Krishna, how wonderful that is. But if some of us can also step out and with renewed energy, get out there and spread Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's message, it will have a wonderful effect, both for the people and for the people who do it. It will be wonderful. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu will give his mercy.
Was it a very dramatic change for you at that time to move between the ashrams?
No, it wasn't so dramatic. Brahmacharya to sannyasis, you have to carry a stick around, but apart from that, there wasn't so much difference. But along with sannyas came more preaching opportunities. That's how it worked. And I had that feeling that Chaitanya, that a sense of greater responsibility, a sense of sort of greater, what would you say, pressure from Krishna. That you've taken this order of life, you have to do something. So that's also good. That if you've accepted this position, then you have to do something. There was in a different context, Srila Sridhar Maharaj, B.R. Sridhar Maharaj, mentioned that there was during the war, I guess the Second World War, there was a hoarding scene in India showing a military uniform. And the caption said, just put on the uniform and the uniform will tell you what to do. So when we take up these responsibilities for Krishna in an authorized way, then Krishna tells us what to do from within the heart, and the devotees also give us encouragement and guidance. So put on the uniform and the uniform will tell you what to do. Tulsi Priya's hand is there.
Jai Maharaj, Hare Krishna, please accept.
Hare Krishna.
I was wondering if there's any, I guess I'm very clueless about what the relationship is between a sannyasi and his sannyas guru.
Okay, you can put your hand down, by the way. I meant to mention to you last time that you knew how to put it up, but you didn't know how to. There you go. The relationship is one of respect and appreciation and gratitude on behalf of the person initiated, and of responsibility in the sense of benediction, really, from the person who gives sannyas. To give sannyas is to give a blessing from the Lord. So the relationship is there. It's not just a formality. I think Srila Narayan Maharaj mentioned that. He said, in Krishna consciousness, nothing is just a formality. Nothing is just a formality. But there's not it's not the same as the relationship with the initiating spiritual master, where now your whole life is dedicated to the service of that person. But there may be that relationship. Everything is individual, everything is personal. So it may be that the relationship with the sannyas guru may be strong, more prominent than the relationship with the initiating guru. When there was some discussion about in Vrindavan in the last days of property trustees, I believe it was property trustees, or I think it was something relating to such matters. And someone suggested that Bhagaji Prabhu, Prabhupada's friend Bhagaji in Vrindavan, could be one of those people. Could have even been an executor for the will. I don't quite recall. But Prabhupada said, no, first he has to be my disciple. So Prabhupada said, if he takes sannyas from me, so that was an indication. Then that means there's a form of surrender, of recognition, and so on. If he takes sannyas from me. So these are some thoughts about that.
Is it sort of a mentor relationship?
Excuse me?
Is it at all a mentor relationship?
It may be. It may very well be. With Satsuru Maharaj, it was like that for me. I learned so much from him before and after taking sannyas. It may not be, in the sense that the person taking sannyas may be very mature and accomplished, perhaps even more so than the person giving sannyas. But it could very well be that there's a relationship of mentorship, and that there might be. Yes, Kamalini. I think you're muted, Mataji.
I just completed the hermeneutics course, and Dr. Bihari, that was you who was the coordinator, is that right? Another Raja Bihari? It says.
Wasn't me. I didn't have anything to do with that.
Says that Raja Bihari was the coordinator. But anyway, I would love.
They probably, as a hermeneutical strategy, just picked up his name for prestige.
Maybe, that's what I'm thinking. But, I would love to discuss some of these topics. I just, as Hari Parshad said, or Krishna Kshetra Swami, that we're just getting our toe wet, because there's so much to learn and so much to apply. But there's a lot of like contradictory statements, and I was hoping we could address some of those. Like one of the exercises is like different to go about achieving an answer. And the last answer is to consult somebody that might know if you don't. So one devotee said he consulted you about how we can hold on to a pigeon and be taken into outer space. And you said, let me know when you find the answer. But since we're talking about sannyas.
Well, I should clarify that. He asked me the question, and then he told me that it was one of the questions that in his course for the hermeneutics course. So and that Hari Parshad was one of the organizers. So I said, that means the answers are going to be there. Let me know when you find out.
I see, yeah.
I expect it wasn't, in other words, I wasn't just throwing up my hands and saying, good luck. I expected that there actually would be an answer.
Well, one of the tenets was there may not be an answer, like we should.
That's also possible.
Feel okay that we don't have an answer and just wait that perhaps someday I'll receive an answer, and how the answers are achieved, through sadhana and purity and prayer. And it may take lifetimes to receive an answer.
That's also possible.
I was hoping you could address some of the contradictory statements. And since we're on the topic of—
Hold on just for a minute, and then I'm just going to do a little wrap up of the previous topic, and then we'll enter into the contradictions.
I had a question. This was about sannyas, since we're talking about sannyas.
Okay, so I'll put you on the tail end of the sannyas wrap up.
Okay.
Because it's not long. There's a question from Praveen in India. In the last 2 years, so many brahmacharis took sannyas, and many more upcoming. There are also new sannyasis in the United States. The answer is that I don't really know. I'm not so much in touch with those things. My
Mhm.
godbrother Amala Bhakta Prabhu took sannyas within the last couple of years, I think. Braj Bihari seems to be more in touch, and he gave a sign that said very few, right? You're muted, but
Yeah, a few.
a few. So that's the answer to that one, a few. By culture and training, the young Indian men have an advantage for taking sannyas. To take birth in America is not a great pious credit by any means. So it may be easier or more natural for some of the Indian devotees to take sannyas. They have a great personal credit that they bring with them. So we're not envious, we're happy. Sankarshan says, Tattvavit Prabhu once asked Rabindra Swarup Prabhu when he was going to take sannyas. Rabindra Swarup replied that he would rather stay renounced, indicating that ISKCON sannyasis tend to get a lot of fanfare and facilities. And then Tulsi Priya asks, can Kamalini Mataji please share info, a link to the hermeneutics course? And now we're back to you, Mataji. Kamalini.
All right, so I wanted to just read 3 statements about sannyas from Prabhupada's books, and then one is from a lecture, and then you could perhaps address them at the end. So Srimad Bhagavatam 3:22-19 purport Prabhupada. This must be in regards to Lord Kapila Dev Kardama Muni. After fulfilling his responsibility to produce a nice child, one should take sannyas. And then a lecture on 3/25/22 in November, Bombay. The Vedic principle is that you remain family life for some time, not for all the days. Panchashordvam vanam raje. As soon as you're 50 years old, you must give up family life, compulsory. And then number 3, from 3:24-34, a mendicant sannyasi should not live anywhere for more than 3 days. Okay, there's just 3 statements. Since you're on the topic of sannyas. I know we had our Vanaprastha adventure, so we did cover a lot of this about leaving home sometime.
So the first one said that Kardamuni, once he had a child, decided to leave home. That was the deal. That's what he told his wife's father at the time of marriage, that I'll stay till I have a son. So he was fulfilling his word. No contradiction there that I see.
Well, because it says that after fulfilling the responsibility to produce a nice child, one should take sannyas. It doesn't exactly say Kardama Muni did, but it's kind of an instruction. It sounds like an instruction.
Well, it doesn't mean that okay, when your first kid is born, now it's sannyas. You got married at 25, you had a kid at 26, and you take sannyas at 26 and a half. That's not the point. But contextually, this is a great duty of the householders. The householder life is fulfilled by having a good child. One repays different debts, and the debt to the forefathers is repaid by having children. So when one has a good child, especially Krishna conscious child, then that debt is now fulfilled. Of course, as a parent, one has a duty naturally to see that the child is raised and educated and so on. So it's not immediately leaves, but it's a sort of, it's consistent with what Prabhupada says elsewhere, or what your third quote, 50 years he must. So the point is, it's not just like hang on, like that. Who was it? who owed a debt to Varuna, I'll give you this child, and then, well, first let his teeth come in, well, first let him grow up a little, well, first this, first that, finding different excuses not to move forward, not to make good on his promise. So it's not that one should, under different excuses, well, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, well, my wife's health is not good, or my third daughter is not yet married, and my son's education is not yet completed, and this and this and this and this. One has to, as a duty, get out and not look for reasons to escape from that responsibility. That's the overriding point, is I would say that this need to fulfill one's the purpose of one's human life overrides all of these lesser considerations. There was a known incident that one of our godbrothers, householder, his wife was pregnant and not by him. And so he went to Srila Prabhupada. So he was discussing, and everybody was saying, forgive her and this and that, and somehow carry on. And he went to Srila Prabhupada and said, because he was saying, maybe I should take sannyas. So then he went to Srila Prabhupada and said, Srila Prabhupada, this is the situation, I'm thinking of taking sannyas. Prabhupada said, at the first excuse, and gave him sannyas. More about this? It's not something to be neglected, or it's not for other people. It's not something that we just put out of our mind while we continue the march of householder life into our 60s and 70s. It's for our own benefit and for the benefit of others that we're meant to become detached from family life, or Prabhupada might say freed from the shackles of family life, and get out there and spread this Krishna consciousness movement, which is, of course, what Srila Prabhupada did. And if he hadn't, he could have stayed at home in Calcutta and, gotten his daughter married and seen to the welfare of his wife. And we've heard later that, there was some resentment on the part of his family members that, our father left. But we're not resentful. People all over the world are so much benefited, so immeasurably benefited by Srila Prabhupada having taken that very sober and responsible step.
Of course, we did discuss in our Vanaprastha Adventure seminar that we don't exactly have the social structure set up to accommodate the women, first of all, if their husband leaves. And then even, I guess the men, they could go to any brahmachari ashram. They would be welcome if they are genuine sannyasi, I imagine.
Well, to your first point, we also don't have anything set up for the welfare of women when their husbands die.
Mhm.
There's so many things that are not set up, but we can't, the world can't just wait till ISKCON sets everything up and has nice ashrams and appropriate facilities for the dedicated women of the Krishna consciousness movement. Somehow people will have to manage. Responsible householders, we hope, will come forward, because that's their duty. while they're householders, their duty is to take care of old people, children, brahmacharis, sannyasis, everybody. That's all on the householders. It's not just that the institution is supposed to set everything up, but the householders are supposed to see to the welfare of such ladies. And generally, from what I've seen, when men take sannyas in recent years, their wives, the devotees have come forward to see to the welfare of the former wife. It's easier to find people willing to do that than it is to find men who are willing to leave. That's the real challenge now. It's not how terribly hard it is to take care of older ladies. ISKCON has the facility, you know, the resources are there in our communities for that. But the internal determination and fortitude to step out and take sannyas, that's what we really need to give attention to, or we need to give attention to both, but that's a big need. And if we get more sannyasis, they can preach about the need to take care of the elderly ladies.
Waiting for it to cool off a little.
Sorry?
Oh, sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, there's some, Athena has a question, a comment.
Okay. I heard that sannyas is only for Brahmins. Kshatriyas and Vaishyas can take vanaprasthas, and Shudras always stay married with the wife. Can you comment? Yes, from what I understand, that's the convention. So that applies for the Vedic culture and varnashram. But when it comes to devotional service, we put all that aside. We don't care. Kiva vipra kiva nyasi shudrakene noi ye Krishna tattvaveta she guru hoy. Anyone can become a guru. Anyone can become a sannyasi. And Prabhupada set the example. He gave sannyas to, what to speak of non-Brahmins, non-varnashramites. That means mlechas, or, you know, fifth-class men. But even the fifth-class men, Prabhavishnave Nama, becomes purified, shudyanti, by devotional service. He becomes better than a Brahmin. Is that okay? Okay. It's not that you know, and these will be the excuses. Well, I'm more of a Vaishya, so that's why, you know, I'm staying in, you know, get off it. You're not a Vaishya. Naham Vipro, not a Patir, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said none of these things. I'm a servant of the servant of the servant of Krishna. So let the excuses go hang, and let's get serious about these things. And the Vaishyas can take vanaprastha, so let's do that, and then we'll talk about sannyas afterwards. But at least let's come to that's therefore my vanaprastha adventure seminar. That let's at least get some momentum here in the vanaprastha ashram, and then after your vanaprastha, Krishna will give you further direction from within the heart or from elsewhere. Is that okay? Something else? This topic or others? Big list of sannyasis, candidates. Not all of them from India, although the wow, look at that big list. Quite the list of devotees. Ekalavya, of course, is Westerner. Sabyasachi, and Bhakti Chamar's disciple, is from Africa. Wonderful devotees. Okay. And what other topics might be one new message? Let's see what that's about. If not for external designations of Varna, why consideration for sannyas if it is devotional service. That I don't think I clearly understand. If not for external designations of varna. The sannyas means it's for preaching. That's the point. That, well, two things, 2 points. For detachment from material affairs, for detachment from material affairs and advancement in austerity and devotional service, but especially for spreading Krishna consciousness. These sannyasis are given some extra respect, and it's for that. For of course, in America and so on, the world doesn't give you a lot of respect for sannyas, but in our movement, some consideration is given to the sannyasis, and therefore some encouragement and backing for preaching. Kshatriyas, Vaishyas are external. Sannyas is also external. Yeah, this is all external. And really, we don't care, because at the end, Naham Vipro Nanadapatir, so the Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, I'm not a sannyasi also. I'm just the servant of the servant of the servant of Krishna. None of these varnashram designations apply. But yet Chaitanya Mahaprabhu accepted sannyas. So what was his purpose? For spreading Krishna consciousness. So that's our only interest. We're not interested in taking sannyas so that we can be on top of the heap of varnashram. That's not the point. Or so that we can get first dibs on the Mahaprasadam offerings, or go around the world collecting envelopes for our comfortable living, or this is our insurance policy for our old age. That's not the idea. It's for taking some risk for Krishna, going out and dedicating oneself for spreading devotional service. So someone could say, I don't need sannyas or vanaprastha because it's external. Real thing is devotional service. No need of vanaprastha and sannyas. So let me just stay in the family life. So it's true that if one is advanced in devotional service, there's no need of these things. But it's also true that one might take shelter of such arguments because of family attachment. No need, so I might as well stay in the dark well, where it's more comfortable and which I'm used to. That's that tendency will be there. One argument, another argument, another argument. So at some point, one should think deeply that where am I going? What is my purpose? What do I want to achieve for my spiritual master before my life is up, which it could be at any point. Braj Bihari Prabhu, yes, let's hear from you, please.
Lars, this is a very timely question, I think. So many devotees, as we know, especially in India, are suffering from COVID. But the question that comes up is, what are appropriate and perhaps inappropriate prayers for devotees? Because some not, it seems it could be either really mushy sentimentality, or devotees start questioning their faith when they intensely pray for someone's health to improve and then they leave this world. What is an appropriate way to pray for, in general, a devotee who's suffering, especially, let's say, health challenges that possibly can be, improved, and and then maybe conversely, what would be, inappropriate for us as followers of Srila Prabhupada?
Thank you. Good question. Well, first, inappropriate is sort of a demand to Krishna, or Krishna, this is what I want. And since you're the Supreme Personality of Godhead, your business is to give me what I want. And if you don't, then, the relationship is going to be in trouble here, because, I'm going to lose faith in you if you don't come through for me. So that's perhaps at the top of the list of what we shouldn't do. When Prabhupada gave us permission to pray for his health, the prayer began, "My dear Lord Krishna, if you so desire," recognizing that finally Krishna is independent and that he has his own desires and that it's up to him. We don't necessarily see what's best. We don't see what he sees. So there's a kind of trust that, my dear Krishna, if you desire, this is my hope, but finally your desire is the determining factor, the determining element. I'll read you something sort of coming from the other side of the question. This is a message. I have a dear friend, Yudhisthira Prabhu in Bombay, who's in the ICU
He
in
is.
Bombay, yeah, with COVID-19. And he writes, Maharaj, I've been fighting bravely, continuously chanting, because I am ready to go or stay back with no regrets.
Wow.
And do seva wherever. I am in a state of prayerful happiness, leaving the rest to Guru and Gauranga. Whatever, I will embrace.
Wonderful.
Yes. So this is the mood of a devotee, that I'm your surrendered servant, and I'm ready to stay, I'm ready to go as you desire. And we may think also that in the life of the devotee, it's always auspicious. If the devotee stays, it's wonderful. And if the devotee goes, that's also wonderful. It's Krishna's desire. So Prabhupada told that story that for the butcher, don't live and don't die. And for the devotee, you live or die, it doesn't matter. So of course it matters to us. We want our the devotees dear to us to stay longer in this world. But we recognize that, well, if Krishna desires that he leave, we desire that his departure may be auspicious, that he'll be in the loving hands of Krishna. Those are some thoughts from my side. Others are welcome to express any thoughts they might want to contribute, Haridas or.
All right, I need my light plugged in down here because it's okay. All right, see here. Yes.
Amalini, you're not on mute.
Oh, sorry, yikes. Anyway, you said anybody else. Well, I request if I'm in a precarious health situation like that, please don't pray to Krishna to keep me here. Like, I just think it's personally, when we're praying and praying, please keep them, when, I mean, they're already 75 years old and, and ready to go. And why not we all pray, yeah, like you say, if you so desire, but praying more for the other side, let their departure be auspicious, and may it be perhaps a painless departure, and to be welcome into, Krishna's company, or at least a much higher birth, I'd much prefer that than having devotees pray for me to stay. So you all heard that. So I'll remember. That's just my personal, of course, it's harder, like you say, if it's somebody very close to you and you want their company, but still it's much more comfortable to leave than to stay, like, say, on a ventilator or something like that, especially with consciousness dulling medications and things like that. Much better to go like that letter you just read, the devotee like saying, I'm chanting, I'm in good consciousness. Like, wow, how auspicious. What a nice time to go. So anyway, just a thought.
Very nice. But on a practical note, by the way, apart from prayers, there's also, if we don't want our life extended, then there's something called advanced directives, which you can look up on the internet and find out about, or yeah, that's the easiest way, which give you some authority about what measures you want employed or withheld in medical treatment. Just a practical thing. Another of my dear friends, Nandadula Prabhu from New Jersey, recently left this world within the last couple of months. And it was clear to him that, they tried A, they tried B. He had a cancerous tumor of the brain. And at a certain point, he'd already made it clear that, why stretch it out? And his family also, when he was beyond beyond speaking about his desires and so on, they took it that, yes, our job now is not to try every possible measure that modern medicine may offer, but to help our husband, our father, to leave this world in Krishna consciousness. And they did, and his last weeks were all spent with kirtan and devotee association on Zoom. And at the end, his family was there holding kirtan for him. He checked out. They checked him out of the hospital and brought him home. And he was surrounded by kirtan, and devotees joined online. A glorious departure. Braj Bihari wanted to say something.
Just a real quick thing. So of course I was, 10 years ago I had open heart surgery, and I was 52 at the time. So I must say it was quite sweet. The GBC was meeting, I think, in Bombay, and at those days they had Skype, so they put me on Skype, and all the GBCs were kind of, I don't know what they were praying for, but it did feel, I must say, it felt good that all these senior devotees were wishing me well. Of course, I was a lot younger than Kamalini's, the way Kamalini picture she was painting, but it did feel good. It felt kind of encouraging. Yeah, I must say.
Certainly, the love and the blessings of the devotees are so valuable, and we can at such times express that and extend that, and also think about doing so before those times come. Tulsi Priya has her hand up again. No, there's a hand that works on its own.
I retract.
Okay. So these sort of, this is where Krishna consciousness really becomes crucial. It's always crucial, but this is, as Prabhupada said, the test. They quoted a Bengali proverb that everything's tested at the time of death. So it's a test for the person who leaves, and it's also for us who are staying behind. It's a test in regard to that relationship, and how do we see that in Krishna consciousness? How do we respond? And it's also a reminder to us that we will be heading down that road, that we're all queued, we're all standing in queue to leave. And so we need to prepare ourselves. We need to take it seriously, because our stay is not unlimited. Our days are all numbered. Prabhupada said Parikshit Maharaj knew he had 7 more days. We have no idea whether we'll have 7 minutes. In the interests of tidiness, or acknowledging contributions, Sankarshan Prabhu has there's a couple of things actually. Praveen says, one temple announces in front of the deities, please, if it is your sweet will, let this virus go so that the world is much better. Yeah, if it's your will. I mean, I don't know. I personally have problems with officially mandated prayers, so I won't say anyone about this one in particular. I'm against them all. Prayer is, for me, something that comes from the heart, not something that our administrators ordain for us. That's my comment on that. But certainly the Vaishnavas are the well-wishers of the whole world, that we don't want to see anyone suffer. Sankarshan asked me to comment on a conversation, the gist of which is that Varnashram is important for us because we're not so transcendental, and therefore we need Varnashram. If we're all Vaishnavas transcendental, then why do so many fall down? It's not so easy. So if you take that argument that we need Varnashram, sannyas is part of Varnashram. It's not that, we're not transcendental, so we need Varnashram, and therefore we should all stay householders forever. Varnashram means Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, Brahmachari, Grihastha, Vanaprastha, Sannyas. That's Varnashram. Varnashram is not a code word for eternal family life, eternal Grihastha existence. There's 4 orders. So taking it either way, if we're transcendental, then we might as well take sannyas and move on. And if we're not so transcendental, then we should get serious about these 4 orders: Brahmana, Brahmachari, Grihastha, then Vanaprastha, and finally sannyas. We're bang on 8 o'clock, and we do try to stop on time. There is a Thursday evening Tuaco Zoom program. Those who wish to join are welcome to join that. And my thanks to all who've come. Special thanks to Raj Bihari and Haridas Prabhu, and to all the devotees who kindly coming and giving us your association and encouragement and contributions. All right.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna
Maharaj.
Krishna, Hare Hare.
Thank you,
Hare
Maharaj.
Ram, Hare Ram,
Thank
Ram
you
Ram.
all.
Glories to these simple devotees.
Thank you so
Hare
much, Maharaj.
All right.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
Jai Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj.
Jaya.